Imagine a scenario in the very near future where artificial intelligence has finally achieved what sci-fi writers have been warning us about for decades. Artificial general intelligence, a technological singularity. But instead of Skynet deciding to nuke all of us into oblivion, or machines plugging us into the Matrix in order to use us like Duracell batteries, instead, humanity merges with this intelligence. Not like that, you weirdo. But imagine that we get lucky, and instead of this turning into a dystopian Black Mirror scenario, we instead gain access to an unparalleled mental upgrade, which can process information trillions of times faster than our current meat sacks. It's the biggest evolutionary leap since disposable thumbs. Wait, no, since opposable thumbs. Suddenly, every scientific paper ever published, every experiment ever conducted, every natural law we've discovered is all instantly comprehensible.
I know Kung Fu.
It's like upgrading from a Nokia 3310 to a quantum supercomputer, but for your brain. And unlike most dystopian films,
Grace not here anymore. I've taken over now.
you actually get to retain your humanity. All of the squishy human bits, your emotions, your consciousness, that burning desire to boop the adorable snoot of every single doggo that you see. Besides gaining mental superpowers and becoming damn near omniscient, you retain every single little aspect of who you are and what makes you you. Except for one very significant change. Everyone who plugs into this super intelligent system instantly becomes an atheist. Not because it steals their soul or forces them to renounce God, but because suddenly all of those pesky gaps that religious folks love to shove their particular God into get filled faster than Pastor Ted Haggard in a male hooker's car.
Are you a gay man?
No, actually it's complicated.
You know the gaps I'm talking about. The ones creationists inevitably point to when they can't explain something. How did life arise from non-life? God done it. How did the eye evolve? God done it. Why does the universe appear so perfectly fine-tuned? You get the idea. But with super intelligent augmentation, these mysteries unravel, because most of them aren't mysteries at all. We may be missing some of the pieces of the puzzle, but all of the other pieces which we do have all create the same picture. And it's not creationism. There's a reason why most people with PhD level knowledge of topics like physics, biochemistry, neuroscience, and biology are not creationists. And as you would tap into this knowledge base of millions of such experts across every field of science, the process of abiogenesis, evolution, and stellar nuclear synthesis would become as obvious as 2 + 2 = 4. But this sudden clarity and subsequent mass deconversion would create an inevitable conundrum for billions of religious observers contemplating mental augmentation. Inevitably, paranoid televangelists and megapastors would begin treating this super intelligent system like Satan's latest software update, because apparently learning too much is still humanity's original sin. We would finally have access to all knowledge and information ever collected, unlocking access to near omniscience, gaining the ability to process vast amounts of information, understanding the intricacies of reality with unparalleled clarity. Every experiment ever conducted, every law of nature, every cognitive bias, self-delusion, and logical fallacy would be laid bare before us, allowing us to see as a species for the first time with clarity every cognitive mistake and mental blunder we've ever made. We would finally have access to undeniable truth. And the traditional religious gatekeepers of truth would undoubtedly dissuade their followers from accessing it, urging them to remain shackled to their Bronze Age fairy tales. In this scenario, the religious opposition to augmented intelligence would create a schism in society. On one side, you've got the augmented crowd, their enhanced intelligence unlocking unparalleled opportunities. They're securing high-paying jobs, solving complex problems, and advancing fields like medicine, creating new vaccines and eliminating diseases. On the other side, the unaugmented, mostly religious fundamentalists, would essentially become the Amish of the future on steroids, like on a global scale. They would scrape by on whatever low-skill, low-paying jobs they could find, which don't require superhuman intelligence and haven't been replaced by robots. The skill set chasm would be monumental. Religious folks would fight back, of course. Muslim extremist nations would probably ban the technology and continue to remain in the Dark Ages, and even in developed countries, religious Luddites would probably create their own enclaves, fostering cultural and ideological polarization. Some would file lawsuits trying to ban or limit the use of the technology, but they would be up against multi-billion-dollar corporations with teams of lawyers, each with augmented intelligence themselves, who have every law, every court case, and every legal loophole memorized and accessible to them like that. Some paranoid Christian preachers would warn their followers that the augmentation is clearly the mark of the beast, because apparently Satan is really into transhumanism. There would be a culture war that makes the current political climate look like a friendly game of patty cake, but inevitably, they would lose, because they're up against almost infinitely smarter opponents. Over time, the unaugmented just wouldn't be able to compete. Their numbers would dwindle, and they would become a bit of an anomaly. Religion would possibly continue to serve a role even for the augmented, but not as a moral framework or to explain how we got here. It would instead fill an emotional or community need. Likely, religion itself would evolve. But while this scenario may seem hypothetical, this outright rejection of facts, knowledge, and education, this embracing of anti-intellectualism, isn't. And it's why this thought experiment hits so close to home. We're already seeing this pattern play out, just on a smaller scale. For the last 9 years of running Holy Kool-Aid, I have watched what happens when you fill these God gaps with actual knowledge. When you show people the pagan origins of Christianity, the historical inaccuracies, internal contradictions, and scientific errors of their holy texts. When you teach people what we already know about abiogenesis, evolution by natural selection, and the Big Bang. Those spiritual experiences which most people don't know how to explain, I've covered extensively, showing natural explanations for things like near-death experiences, sleep paralysis, as well as things that people mistake for ghosts. We don't need the supernatural to account for these things. Even if those were our earliest explanations, they weren't our best. Even the authors of the Bible thought that seizures were caused by demons. And when I first experienced sleep paralysis as a Christian, I thought it was a demonic attack. When I present this information to people, some of them embrace it. Their eyes light up when they realize that we can know how the world works, and they realize that science is way cooler than Sunday school ever was. Not satisfied with dogma and simplistic faith-based answers, they pursue knowledge. But others inevitably bury their heads so deep in the sand that they strike dinosaur fossils, which they probably assume Satan put there to test their faith. And the ironic thing is that back when I was a Christian, I was taught, in the words of Jesus, that the truth will set you free. But while Jesus, in cult leader fashion, claimed that the truth was found by dogmatically holding fast to his every word and teaching, religious adherents are faced with an alternate choice: to actually follow the evidence wherever it might lead. And sadly, when it's the truth itself that threatens their worldview, they all too often proudly embrace ignorance like a badge of honor, shut their minds down, and stomp around like they've accomplished something. But if the God of the Quran or the Bible is real, why would an all-powerful, all-knowing God be threatened by human knowledge? Why would the creator of the universe need to hide in the shadows of our ignorance, inhabiting ever-shrinking gaps? If God exists, wouldn't learning about reality just reveal more of his or her handiwork? Instead, we see religious folks fighting tooth and nail against scientific advancement. It's almost like they know deep down that their beliefs can't survive the light of evidence, so they trash-talk universities, spread mistrust of science, riddle the airwaves with misinformation and conspiratorial thinking, and they keep rehashing the same garbage apologetic arguments which were debunked centuries ago. But truth withstands scrutiny. And to paraphrase PC Hodgel, any idea which can be destroyed by the truth deserves to be. Because that's really what it comes down to. Are you brave enough to follow the evidence wherever it leads? Are you willing to let go of your comforting fantasies in pursuit of actual truth? Because contrary to what religion teaches us, the real original sin isn't eating from the tree of knowledge. It's refusing to. Now, if you appreciate the work that I do and you want to help my mission of promoting scientific skepticism and critical thinking, you can support my work with either a one-time PayPal donation or an ongoing per-video pledge on patreon.com/holykoolaid. Your support helps way more than you think, even if it's just a couple bucks a video. It helps keep the lights on and the videos are churning out and allows me to continue doing this full-time. Thank you everyone so much for your ongoing support, and as always, dare to be curious, but don't drink the Kool-Aid.